was driving all around doing camps and clinics for anyone that would have me. And I went and did a clinic in a tornado shelter facility. Some days where I'd just be like, all right, I made $200 today. So I'm like, I'm not about to, spend $150 on a Holiday Inn or a Marriott or something like that. I'd go find a parking lot, crank up the heat, and then lean back the driver's seat and just pass out. Go to sleep. I hear and I like jumped up and sure enough it was a security. And he's like, "Sir, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm checking into the hotel the next morning. I got here a little early, driving from out of town." He's like, "Well, you can't be sleeping in the parking lot." And I was like, "My fault, sir." I was like, "I'm gonna go grab breakfast anyway, and then I'll come back and check in." Well, I wasn't checking in.
What is next for you to take off to where you're always saying you want to elevate? What's that next elevation for you?
This right here. It is Atomic Habits meets The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck times Tim Grover's Relentless. And you put those three things together, and that's what this book is.
What is it for you in terms of like your on-court skill development, and what is like your selling point for prospective clients who may want to work with you?
Now it's a lot easier. Now I just say, hey, look at what I've been able to do. I've got $5 billion in contracts. Because results is all that matters. You know what I mean? Like, I remember there was one game where Joel Embiid had 59 points, and after the game, he's like, "Yeah, what you got to say now?" I was like, "You couldn't even fucking get 60."
I got a low tolerance because they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Going with the Flow podcast. I am your co-host Jordan Flowers, aka J Flow, and I'm here with my co-host Jared Williams. And today we have a very, very special guest in the building. So I'm gonna kick it to you, Jared, to introduce the man of the hour.
The man of the hour. He resides from my area, St. Louis, from my high school, Webster Groves High School, king of basketball, NBA trainer legend, Drew Hanlen, man.
Well, yes,
What's
indeed.
up,
Welcome
fellas?
to the show.
Shout out
What's
Dub
going
G,
on?
baby. Shout out Dub G.
Shout out to the Dub G, man. Shout out to Coach Blossom, if anything.
No doubt.
We really need to shout out.
No doubt. No, I'm excited to join y'all. This will be fun.
Absolutely,
Man,
absolutely.
we appreciate you having us. Man, it's love this way, man. It's just crazy. Like, we've been texting back and forth, trying to like get this all set up. But like, you got a busy schedule, so like, just to rip it off, how you find time to do anything, bro? Like, you in Philly one day, LA the next day, New York. Like, how do you do it?
It's crazy you say that because I'm in LA right now recording this. Tomorrow I'll be in Portland for a camp and clinic, and then on Thursday I'll be with Brad in Phoenix. So I mean it's nonstop, but I mean it's one of those things when I look back and I think about when I was growing up. When I was younger, for my birthday presents, I used to get one ticket to an NBA game. And my Christmas present was a flight to the NBA game. I used to fly up to Detroit because that's where my aunt and uncle lived, and Detroit had a team and St. Louis didn't. And so, I think back to those days, and I remember watching one of the years I got to watch a young Kobe and Shaq, Fro Kobe and Shaq. One of the years I got to watch Michael Jordan. It was the only time I got to watch Michael Jordan live, and I grew up idolizing him. And I remember how much I looked forward to going to those games. And now I get paid to go to NBA games, and I get paid to tell the best players in the world how they can get better. And I get paid to, do all these amazing things that evolve around basketball. And I'm like, I just flash back to those moments, and I'm like, man, 10-year-old you would be geeking out at how cool, all these opportunities are and all these experiences are. And so don't take them for granted. Like, keep going, keep being a blessing to as many players, coaches, trainers, people as you can. And, that's why the grind, is irrelevant to me. It's, I think to get to any certain level in life, you've got to make a ton of sacrifices. And trust me, I don't think many people know my real journey, but the people that do respect the hell out of it just because they know, how much work I've put in, how many sacrifices I've made, and all the things that I do that, happen in the unseen hours, when no one's watching, that truly have allowed me to get to a level that I feel really appreciative to have got to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking about your journey and where you started from, I have to ask the question, do you claim the Lou or do we claim Iowa? And this is a really important question only because I reside from Nebraska. I'm a Nebraska kid. But he was saying that am I right in that, Jared, that you may have some ties to Iowa? Am I right in that? Did you have some
Well,
ties
I'll
to
tell you
Iowa?
this. I claim 100%. I claim St. Louis, Shrewsbury, Webster
Okay.
Groves. There's 0% Iowa, but I think the tie to Iowa could have been that when I was younger, when I started doing travel camps and clinics, I spent a lot of time in Iowa. I spent a lot of time
Uh,
in Kansas. I spent a lot of time in Illinois. I was driving all around doing camps and clinics for anyone that would have me. There were some days where I remember driving down to. There was one time I drove down to south. It was like southeast Missouri, and I went and did a clinic in a tornado shelter facility. So it's basically they had built this big in their town. They had built this big tornado shelter, and then they rolled in basketball hoops so we could do a camp. I don't know, maybe there's 30 kids at the camp, and I'm charging back then like $20 a kid, but I'm like, hey, this is a great day. I was willing to do
Yeah,
anything and
yeah.
everything. It's funny because one of the things I'm really excited about is the book that's coming out, and we'll talk about that later.
yes,
But one of the
sir.
stories in there is literally called "Parking Lots and Pillows," and the truth is, there were some days where I'd just be like, all right, I made $200 today. Say I drove to Kansas City and I did a clinic and maybe, only a couple, 10 people showed up and I charged $20 each. I made $200. I'm like, I'm not about to, spend $150 on a Holiday Inn or a Marriott or something like that. And so I'd go
Right.
find a parking lot, crank up the heat, just because you got to get the car warm, and then lean back the driver's seat and just turn off the car and just pass out. Go to sleep, get as many hours as you could. And there was one night, true story, where I hear and I like jumped up and sure enough it was a security. And he's like, "Sir, what are you doing here?" And I was like, he probably thought I was, homeless or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, I'm checking
Mhm.
into the hotel the next morning. I got here a little early driving from out of town." He's like, "Well, you can't be sleeping in the parking lot." And I was like, "My fault, sir." I was like, "I'm gonna go grab breakfast anyway, and then I'll come back and check in." Well, I wasn't checking in. I just found a different
Yeah.
parking lot. And I remember I was like driving, and it was a real small town. So I was driving to find another parking lot, and I was like, "What am I doing? I'm already up. Like, let's just go home." And I just after like maybe a couple hours of sleep, I just started driving home. So, I mean, there's so many cool, stories in the book that I share. But, that was one of the things that I loved most about the book was I was writing it for readers. There's so many people that want to read self-help books, but then they pick up these
Mhm.
300, 400-page books and they feel like their time's being wasted. They never finish the book. They never apply any of the messages. I was like, man, all I want to do is I want to have short, power punching stories that motivate people, drive action. I want to give them the exact same system that's helped all my NBA players, that's helped me, that's helped, countless other, entrepreneurs and that's what the book's all about. But yeah, man, when you talk about Iowa, that's the thing that's the thing that I remember is I remember driving up there and literally doing camps and clinics everywhere, all throughout Iowa, just because Iowa is such a basketball craves, state. And
Yes.
Don Showalter, who runs USA Basketball, he used to run this thing called Snow Valley Basketball Camp. They used to sell out with 750 kids per week, and I was a camp counselor there, and I was doing the camp counseling so that I could also, when I went in on my Iowa driving tour, then everyone knew me and loved me, and would attend my own camp. So. I have a ton of ties to the Midwest, but I'm Webster Groves and St. Louis
You're
for
a little
life.
you're a little boy, and yeah. So like for me, one, I want to say that I end up speaking of Iowa, I end up playing for all Iowa Attack for a little bit. When they were a part of EYBL, I know they're just Nike
Yep.
associated now, I believe. But I had a lot of stories about getting killed by some Marvin Bagleys. My class was the Trey. Yeah, I got so many. Gary Trent. He put a good 40 ball on our
Yep.
head. But there's so many basketball stories. But I want to get into your story about your upbringing, right? So what I've learned from, just reading about you and talking to Jared, there's this like theme of determination and hunger. And so there's like this ability like to stick through something and see it through and having that big break. So I want to know, like, with the main motivation for a lot of us, it stems from that fear to get away from our previous situations or, just to better our situation. So with all that you've accomplished and what's ahead of you, how has your motivation to be at the top of the game evolved since you first started training?
To be honest with you, I might be motivated by different things, but the hunger, the drive, it just keeps amplifying, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really do think there's always another level. That's my job. My job
Mhm.
is to literally help the best basketball players in the world find levels that they can't find themselves. And you got to tap into, really deep kind of motivators in order to drive action to actually get to those levels. And so, for me, when I was younger, like when I first started training, my motivation was I had a car that my dad had bought for my 16th birthday that he paid $300 and a box of steaks for. True story. My dad owned a butcher shop in Kirkwood, and he traded $300 and one box of steaks for the car I had. It had 200,000 miles. It had a big ass dent on the side of it, and and I was like, man, I can't be the player of the year in Missouri, and I can't go pick up girls in this like big ass dent
Yeah.
little Toyota Corolla. And this was 2000, so it was 2006 or seven that I turned. I think 2007, um, and when I turned 16, and I remember getting that car, and it was like a 1992 Toyota Corolla. Think about that. And so I
Mm.
was like, that was my driving factor was I got to make enough money so that like whatever. Then I got upgraded. I remember I bought this, this 1995, which wasn't, much better 1995 car. Then I bought a 2005 car, which I was really proud of, but it was a Pathfinder, a Nissan Pathfinder. Um,
Yeah.
but it had again like
Shout out to the
the 95 the 95 the 95 Pathfinder that I had before the '05 Pathfinder, it didn't even start if it rained, if it snowed, if it was too cold outside. So I remember on my prom, there or not my prom, it was my junior friendship dance. We had this thing called the friendship dance at Webster and Kirkwood where we came
Yo.
together, and I went to go pick up the girl, and it was cold out, so I left the car running, and I went to the door to be a gentleman. And I remember the
Mhm.
dad was like, "Hey, turn off the car, come in, stay a while." I was like, "Oh, it's good." He's like, "No, no, no, turn it off." I was like, "Bro, the car's not going to start if I turn it off." Like, yeah, I
Turn
didn't
it
want to
off.
say that, but I was like, "Oh man." So I remember I go out, I walk.
I'm trying to impress her.
I was like doing a walk of shame, man. I went out, I turned off the car. I was like, man, this thing isn't going to start. So I went in, I obviously like, she pinned the little, whatever you call a little flower on your
Lapel.
suit. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
I gave her the little, her flowers, and I'm talking to the parents and stuff like that. And I remember when we were walking out, where they're taking pictures, and the whole time we're taking pictures, all I'm thinking is like, what is this? Is this car going to start? Like, and I remember
Right.
it was and it turned over. I was like, yes, let's go. Like,
Yes.
it's a good night. And I'm like, I can't have that feeling. So that was the driving
Mhm.
factor when I was younger. It was like, I came from, we didn't have any money. So if I wanted something, I had to go earn it. And then after that, it became, hey, man, this is something you have a chance to be around basketball. I love basketball. I love helping people. This is your chance to do two things you love at once and get paid for it. And so, and then the last thing is, I really do think the biggest driving factor for me now is just, I don't want to let people down. When people trust you with something super valuable, which is their livelihood, their game is their livelihood. I want to do anything and everything I can to make sure that trust was deemed worthy. You know what I mean? And so, this morning, it's 9 a.m. here in California. I was up at 5 a.m. and already did a bunch of film breakdown stuff. Already did one podcast. This is my second podcast of the day. Like that's just how I've always been. I've been wired just to go. And
Yeah.
it's always funny because there's a lot of people that thought I was crazy for waking up at 4:59 a.m. when I was, in high school. I used to shoot 1,000 shots before school every day. But those same people that used to be like, "You're crazy," are the ones that are asking me for tickets. Hey man, my son would
Yeah.
love to go to a game. And you remember when you were calling me crazy? I was doing the shit that you weren't doing, and that's why I'm able to live a life
Yeah.
that you aren't able to live right now. So, um,
Mhm.
But yeah, man, I think it always changes too, because like right now, I talked about early in my life, I was money hungry. I was driven by money and obtaining a new car. Now I could care less about the money side of it. Now it's more about being able to impact as many lives as possible and be able to
Mhm.
give back as much as possible. I look at getting now so that I can give. You know what I mean? Like the more I get, the more I can
Right.
give, and um, it's a cool place to be, but it's definitely taken a long road to get here.
And that's something that I've kind of learned over time is like I've grown even in my career that everybody wants to make the most money. Everybody wants to get to a place where they feel comfortable, successful. But one of the things that honestly I learned from that we can relate to is Coach Blossom, where he was such a stickler about things, making sure the standards of certain things, but he always wanted to make sure that like he was impacting and just honestly just growing young men. Like he didn't coach me. I played football for Webster Groves, but like he was my US government teacher. And it was like one of those things where like even in that setting, you could tell that like he just wanted to bring the best out of each individual. And don't get me wrong, I probably gave that man hell my freshman year, but still, it was like one of those instances that like he genuinely cared about people as a people. And like somebody like him, I can tell you guys have a strong relationship. So do you feel like you obviously already had that mentality? Like you were waking up at 4:59 in middle school.
Yep.
Like no middle school is even doing that.
Yep.
But like kind of taking that level to like elevate and grow, where did Coach Blossom take you from like high school then as you transitioned to Belmont?
It's funny. I'm sitting here looking. I got a story in this book that you're gonna laugh your ass off about Coach Blossom. But the story is basically my junior year in high school. I started taking some visits to colleges, and one of the colleges I went was University of Pennsylvania. Penn it's an Ivy League school. It has the School of Wharton, one of the best business schools in the country. And at the time they had been to 3 NCAA tournaments back to back to back, and so I was really excited about the opportunity to have a good basketball team that can compete for NCAA tournament appearances while having a great entrepreneurship program that I knew could, accelerate my business. And so I brought Coach Blossom up to Philly on my visit. And so him being a U.S. government teacher, he was like, hey, first thing I want to do is I want to go do some things around Philadelphia because there's so many historical, this is where the Capitol was before Washington, D.C. I want to see the Liberty Bell. But
Right.
like, he's like, I want to start off at the Rocky Steps, the Art Museum, the Rocky Steps. And so he gives me his phone and he hands it to me, and he says, "Hey," he said, "don't fuck this up." He said, "I'm gonna run up there." He said, "I'm gonna start the Rocky dance, and make sure you walk around me and get the city just like the movie does." And so sure enough, he runs up, and I'm following him up with dumbass video, by the way, because I'm running, so the video is shaking the whole time. But we get to the top. He starts air punching and doing his da-na-na, like Rocky theme song. And sure enough, though, there's a little kid. There's a little kid that's like 6 years old. And the little 6-year-old looks to him and goes, "Hey, mister, you're not even at the top." And he points, and Coach Blossom looks, and there was one more set of stairs that he didn't see. He's like, "Ah,
Damn.
turn the fucking camera off. We're going back down and redoing it." So I put that story in the book because the way I related it to the book was I was like, so many people are like Coach Blossom where they think they're at the top, but there's always another level. And
Mhm.
Mm,
but no, Coach Blossom was great for me. There was a time where I did not want to play defense. I was cold offensively as a freshman. I was cooking. I think I shot like 45, 46% from three my freshman year in high school. And I was like, why am I not playing more? But every time I made a defensive mistake, he would take me out. Practices, I was all-time defense. Like there were times where I was like, man, F this. Every other high school coach around the other area was like, yo, come play for us. Like, we'll let you just get buckets, like whatever. And
mm,
fast forward to my junior year, we're playing at Peach Jam, Nike WBL. You had mentioned that earlier. We're playing at Peach Jam,
Mhm.
mhm.
and we are in the Elite Eight game, and we're playing against Kendall Marshall. And Kendall Marshall was the number one point
Wow.
guard in the
Carolina.
country. Yeah, he went to Carolina
That's a name for the past
and
match.
played in the
Ooh.
league. And
Mm,
I matched up against him. And that game, I had 8 points, which wasn't crazy. I was 2 for 3 from the field. Made two threes and I made two free throws, 2 for 2 from free throw line. But I held him to 1 for 11 from the field. And after
mm.
the game, I got 12 scholarships, including Belmont, where I ended up playing. And I never forget, I'm like, after the game, my coaches are like, man, this school's offering. And then I got another text, this school's offering, another call, this school's offering. And I'm like, man, I had 8 points, but they didn't care. They were like,
Mhm.
yo, we know you can play offense. We just saw you just lock up one of the best point guards in the country. And again, he might have missed some shots that he normally made. And but whatever, he was 1 for 11. And I flashed back and I was like, man, if I would have transferred, I would not have been the defensive player I was. If I would have, given in, I wouldn't have been the defensive player I was. If I wouldn't have trusted Coach Blossom, I wouldn't have been the defensive player I was, and I wouldn't have got those scholarships. And so, the lesson I learned from that was great coaches make you do what you have to do and need to do. They don't allow you to do what you want to do. And I think that's
For
what Coach
sure.
Blossom does, better than anyone is, he didn't care what you wanted to do. He just knew what you needed to do and made you do that. And that's why he's helped so many
Mhm.
players develop. And that's why he's won, countless state championships, countless coaches of the years, and, has had the career that he's had and resume that he's had, but also the impact that he's had on so many different people.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that you even said in there is doing the things that are necessary. Sometimes we're going to, what's hard is, not the most enjoyable thing to do, but it's necessary for being successful or attaining to a level of success. So, and sticking on that point in terms of doing like the hard things, guys kind of have the pick of the litter when it comes to being with an NBA skills coach, right? Like there's so many, there's some bad ones out here. We know in any field there's going to be a bad of anything, but for you and all that you've been talking about, what we'll talk about here soon with the book, what is it for you in terms of like your on court skill development, and what is like your selling point for prospective clients who may want to work with you, and what can they expect from the Drew Hanlen experience and the mentality that you bring in terms of wanting to develop not only basketball players but men that are transitioning in the NBA or continuing to find their way within the NBA?
Now it's a lot easier. Now I just say, hey, look at what I've been able to do. I've got $5 billion in contracts. I think every one of the guys that I work with has made over $100 million in their career. Almost all of them have made all-star appearances, or they're still young enough where they will eventually make all-star appearances. So that's what I always turn to, because results is all that matters. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and again,
Mhm.
my slogan is hate me now, thank me later. I don't care if you hate me now. You're going to thank me later when you get the
Right.
results that you want to get. And but a lot of times I just encourage them. I'm like, hey, just come try it out. You're going to see a different level of detail. You're going to see a different level of drive. You're going to see a different level of asshole than you've ever seen. And that's kind of what I'm known for in the industry. I'm known for like the nicest asshole, meaning like I really care about my players as people. And so they're like, you
Mhm.
are like a therapist to them. You are a mentor to them. Like, we've never seen somebody in the trenches as much as you are in their lives. But then on the court, I'm the biggest
Mhm.
asshole there is. Like, it'll be times where, I remember there was one game where Joel Embiid had 59 points. And, after the game, he's like, yeah, what you got to say now? I was like, you couldn't even fucking get 60. You know what I mean? Like, that's just who I am. And so,
Right.
there's always another level. So, there are
Mhm.
times where I'm proud of guys. When Joel won MVP, when Jason won his championship, when all these guys, Tyrese Halliburton won a assist title last year, like. Tyrese Maxey won a most improved last year. Like last year, my guys cleaned up the awards, but
Right.
the
Mhm.
truth is, like, I'm one of those people, like, when you're at the casino and they say don't count your chips until you leave the table. Like, that's kind of how
Right.
I feel
Right.
like in their careers. Like, hey, at the end of your career, let's look back and let's prepare your Hall of Fame speech and remind everybody about how great your career was. But until then, let's just keep trying to get better, because there's no reason just to settle for where you're at when you're capable of so much more.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. Is like being able to see yourself in a different light. And I think just also too is, when you attain a level of success, you're so like tunnel vision, right? Like everything that you're doing is, like you said, just the next step. Um, I guess my follow-up question before I kick to Jared, and it's just a simple question, is that like throughout your journey, have you had those moments of being able to reflect back? I know everything that I'm kind of gaining from you, and we similar in our mentality is like, yo, I'm so locked in that I don't even really care about what I've accomplished, right? Do you have those moments of reflection that you go back to, like, wow, like and give yourself that grace of like, this is how far I've come and now let's get back to work? Or is it just like a constant narrow mind of like, we got to go?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the time is that we got to go. But I had one the other day. A lot of times it's for other people. Like a lot of times, other people are experiencing things that they've never got to experience before. It might be, I bring my nieces and nephews courtside, and they don't really know what courtside means yet because they're still younger and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But then my brother-in-laws and stuff are like, this is the coolest thing in the world, Or there's other times where, where the other day, I was sitting 3 rows behind the Chicago Bulls bench, and I was watching the game, and the game was it was like a 15 to 20 point game. Like it was going to be a bad game. And so I'm on my phone watching one of my other clients play during the game, and there was
Mhm.
a family behind, and the family behind, the dad said, he was like, "Man, this is a pathetic, effort. This is pathetic effort that we're getting tonight. Like I can't believe we spent $2,000 to be here." And those kind of moments snap me back because I'm like, here I am. I'm ignoring the game. I'm literally watching another game on my phone, and I don't care because I'm going to go to another game the next night and another game the next night. And that brought me back because I'm like, that's 2,000 hard-earned dollars that family
Mhm.
paid for that experience. They looked forward to this game just like I used to look forward to the games that I used to get to go to as a kid, that one game a year. Also, after the games that I went to when I was a little kid, I used to talk about that game for months. So it was like the whole year
Yep.
I was talking about either going to it or went to it.
What you just
And I
seen.
was like,
Yep.
man, this sucks for that family that they didn't get that wow experience. And I remember I was telling a couple of the guys, I was like, y'all, now I get, like, I finally got the whole like aspect of when fans complain like, oh, stars sit out, or they don't play hard enough in the regular season or whatever. Because I'm like, I remember how much I look forward to those games, and so there's moments like that kind of snap you back. But
Mhm.
I've never had I've never had like a reflection period where I'm laying on a beach and I'm like, wow, like I'm proud of you, Drew. I'm just more of like, other people will try to remind me and tell me like, good things. But to be honest with you, my focus is just like building, as many people up as I can. And at the end of the day, like I'm not going to be able to like bury Joel's MVP trophy with me. I'm not going to be able to bury Jason's MVP, his championship ring. I'm not going to be able to to bury money. What I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to impact a lot of lives, and at the end of my life, I just hope a bunch of people just were like, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, thank you. Like, you
Yep.
impacted my life in a positive way. And there's also cool moments there. There was one time I was in Spain, and I had just crossed through customs, and I'm getting ready to board, a flight to the U.S. And I had a kid sprinting. He was probably 18 years old, sprinting,
Right.
and he caught up to me. He goes, Drew, and he's like out of breath. I'm like, what's up, my man? And he's like, you don't know me, but you changed my life. He's like, there was a time where I
Mm.
was depressed, and I watched one of your videos, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's time to make a change. And he said, then I started training with your workout program. And I went from being cut to making the team to being six man to being a starter. And I was like, that is amazing. And he said, you won't believe this, but actually now I'm playing professionally over in Spain. He goes, there was at one point in my life where I was so depressed that I was getting ready to give up basketball, give up on life.
Mhm.
But he's like, because I watched one of your videos,
Wow.
it changed my perspective. Then I started using all your training programs, which changed my basketball career. And now here I am playing professional basketball. He goes, it's not like a big time league. And I was like, dude, you're winning more than anybody. Like that is the best success story I've ever heard. And I remember that whole flight home from Spain. That's all I could think about was I was like, yo,
Right.
you got to put out as much good content as you can. You got to, be impactful as much as you can, because you never know that one time, that one video, that one, what's up, dap up, that could be the one change in that person's life, So um, that's what I would say. I would say there's more of those moments that like hit hard than me
Mhm.
reflecting back and giving myself flowers, just because, I don't think you should go buy yourself flowers. Right? You know what I mean? I really don't.
Right.
I think it's one of those things where at the end of the day, the real ones know, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. And kind of like even going off like your book a little bit, I saw two major people are forwarding your book. Joel Embiid, who you just talked about, and Jason Tatum. And like kind of like that impact is so important because I remember there was a time where before the MVP or even before Jason's championship, Joel, for instance, people didn't know he was going to pan out because he was in and out of injuries. So that probably took a whole huge toll on his life. There was one point that I'm pretty sure you didn't even want to train Jason when he was younger. So just kind of like talk about like what those guys obviously you mean a lot to them, but what do they mean to you and like what they have done for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously it's really cool to have two of the best players in the world, be able to support the book and write the forwards, and it was cool just reading, what they wrote and stuff like that, and even listening to the interview process, to get all their thoughts out and stuff like that. But I mean, for let's start with Jason, being 13 years old. I remember the first workout that we ever had. I just killed him. I wanted a reason to say no to working him out, and he didn't give up. And then, after that, the first week was boring. All we were doing was working on the jab step. And
Mm,
he didn't shy away from it. He was like, "All right, if this is what it takes, I'm willing to do whatever it takes." And so, to be there for game 5 and be able to, I was on the court. He literally hugged his mom and then he ran over and hugged me right after they won the championship. It was so cool to be a part of that moment just because I knew all the sacrifices, all the work, all the dedication that he had poured into his entire journey and career. And so that made that moment special. Joel winning MVP. I mean, he should have won it, the year before, and
or yeah,
finally, getting acknowledged for what he's been able to accomplish. He's a guy that picked up a basketball at 16 years old. Like think about that. And then
crazy.
now, 13 years
Wow.
later, you're the best basketball player in the world. Like that's just unbelievable. It's a testament to all of his hard work. And so, um, like I said, like you guys know, I mean, I'm in the trenches with these guys. I've been, with Jason. I don't even know how old he is now. 20, maybe 27, 26, 27, 27, 26,
Mhm.
27.
Mm,
And that means
You're
I've been
so
with him
good.
13 years, 14 years. For Joel, we started right after he got in. So I think this is our 10th year together. So spending over a decade with somebody, it's way beyond what happens on the court. Like these guys are lifelong friends. And, it's been truly special seeing how much they've been able to accomplish. And they're both not done. You know what I mean? Like they're both,
Yeah.
still in their primes. And it's just fun to be a part of that journey.
Heck yeah.
heck yeah, man. And first and foremost, we already there. So let's stick on the book. Stop bullshitting yourself. You can go get it and pre-order it, like the line says. We'll make sure to put the link below.
Get it,
Go
baby.
support.
Yeah.
Go support, man. And but I really wanted to get into like just the motivation. Jared knows I come from a psychology background. That's what I got my master's in. So I'm always thinking about what's the mindset of people and like what's their motivating actions to do the things that they did. And one of the things that came to mind for me with this is when we talk about self-help books, like one of the things that come to mind is the Atomic Habits. I think everybody's probably read that by James Clear, and all those other
Yep.
Yeah.
stories. So, for you, I wanted to see if you had drew inspiration from other kind of books and other narratives that people have came around. How you drew from your own experience, and then ultimately, what kind of gave you the confidence to sit down and give your prospective readers something different that they may have not heard, that can kind of change their lives. And particularly, I ask this because everyone feels like they have a story to tell, and they'll tell it to anybody that is willing to listen. For you, what was the timing like? What was the motivation? What gave you that moment of saying, I can give these people something that I've attained over these years that will help them benefit for the rest of their lives?
Here's a true story. So I read all the time. I studied psychology in college as well, and I read countless books on how to help my players out, and then also the people that I consult with, business wise and CEOs and all this kind of
Mm,
stuff. And I do a lot of keynote speaking, and so I'm in that self help world. And what I got tired of is I got tired of everyone, just throwing all these cliche quotes together and telling their own life story. And, listen, I love listening to people's life stories and I love reading about them. But the truth is, I
right.
felt like most books, were 300, 400 pages. And, 200 of them were, that wasn't relevant to me, the reader. And so what
Mm-hmm.
I said was, I was like, man, listen, I really do believe that everybody has untapped levels that they can get to. I really believe that deep down, the reason that you are stuck, the reason that you've hit a plateau, the reason that you're not living the exact life that you want is because your decisions, your actions, your work habits, all those things, like it's you. And so I started with that. I was like, man, everybody, there's a turning point that everyone has that, where basically it's the moment where you just are like, you know what? I am tired of settling. I deserve more. And that
Mm.
frustration, that hunger, the feeling of disappointment, something in you is ready to finally tackle your biggest problems and biggest challenges. And so I'm like, man, listen, like that's where I started. And then I said, there's this system. So most books, you just go through and it's story after story and story, and or it's about themselves. My
Mm-hmm.
entire book is
Mhm.
literally a system. So in the book, you actually fill out stuff. So it's like, the gap, like where you are, where you want to be. And then it's not like, okay, this is how you do it. Like it goes through, and our boy Brad Beal, it has a story about Brad right here about how he actually, like, we went through and shrunk the gap. But then, like, you're actually filling in stuff during the book. So it's like a workbook
Mhm.
inside the book, so that by
Mm-hmm.
the time that you actually get done, you got a blueprint. And it's like, hey, listen, this isn't like, we're not talking about this. Like, we're actually building something that, like, allows you to step into something crazy. So, like, if you look, I'm going to show you guys something right here, but like, I've got like a whole system of like how to actually change, and each page, you're actually filling in stuff so that by the time you get to, here, you got a whole plan. So it's like, and it goes through and it breaks down
Mhm.
basically like where you are, where you want to get to. There's a gap. That gap is where
Mhm.
all frustration, all stress, all struggle exist. And when people say, "Nah, I don't," what do you mean that? And I'm like, listen, let's say you weigh 250 pounds and you look in the mirror and you don't think you look good and you want to weigh 200 pounds. There is a 50
Mhm.
pound gap between you feeling good about yourself. There's a gap. Let's say you want to buy a new car and that car is $50,000 and you have $10,000. There is a $40,000 gap. If you could shrink that gap financially, you'd feel a lot better. You'd get the car that you want. Let's say, like, let's say that right now that you're basketball player. Let's say you won a college scholarship and you have zero college scholarships and you're averaging 6 points a game on varsity, and you think I have to average 20 points a game on varsity eventually to get a college scholarship. There is a 14-point gap. And so it's like, how are you going to
Mhm.
shrink that gap so that you can get to where you want to get to? And then what we do is we reframe it. So the guy that wants to lose 50 pounds, that seems overwhelming. Most people, if they want to lose 50 pounds, they say, all right, I'm going to start a diet on Monday. Then on Monday, they start eating well and they're like feeling good. And then on Tuesday, they wake up sore from their workout on Monday and they're like, F this. It doesn't matter. I don't really care if I have a six pack or not. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
most people. What I like to do is I'm looking
Right.
at one, hey, 50-pound person. If we can literally lose 1 pound a week, that's 50 pounds in a year. And
Yeah.
even if we
Mhm.
say, let's make this a 2-year process, a half a pound a week, you know what I mean? That's literally like, one less water bottle a day worth of junk, and so it's like, then
Mm-hmm.
it's not all about, it's like, okay, now we shrink it so it feels realistic. Then we put together a blueprint, like an actual step-by-step action plan. So we break down everything into, things you're actually willing to do. Because if I say I'm going to work out for an hour a day and I haven't been working out, the likelihood that I keep and stick with an hour a day workout is just, it's not realistic. So,
Yep.
with my dad, I helped him lose 90 pounds in a calendar year, which seems crazy. But all he did was he literally just said, all right, guess what? Every time I have a meal, I'm going to split it in two. I'm going to eat the first half and I'm going to set the second half aside. And if I'm still hungry 15 minutes later, then I'll eat the second half. And he realized, one, his portions were way too big because he was like, I didn't really need
Mhm.
that second half. I just ate it because it was in front of me. Second thing we did was basically we said, hey, every day you're walking. I don't care if you get up and walk around the block. I don't care if you walk around the neighborhood. I don't care if you walk around the town, but you're going to walk every day. We're going to keep that momentum building. If you feel good, once you get past that, that corner, just keep going. If you feel bad that day, just circle it and come back home. But at least you're going to keep the streak of I walk every single day. And then the last thing we did was basically we were like, hey, all we got to do is we got to avoid a couple little foods that, we got to avoid, sugars, like, a lot of the artificial sugars, desserts.
Cheers.
We got to avoid, we're nothing crazy, but we're like, hey, we looked at his diet. We're like, you have way too many carbs that are just bad carbs, not good carbs, bad carbs. And we're like, you need some carbs for energy, but we can't have that many carbs. We got to cut that down a little bit. And then water. You got to drink a lot more water, because a lot of times the reason you're eating is because you're actually thirsty, but you're eating because you think you're hungry. And so we literally broke it down into that, and 90 pounds in one calendar year. So that's what the book is. It literally is like, I look at trainers and they always ask me, how do you get to where you are? And I'm like, break it down, build it up. And so that's what the book's going to do. Like, I'm really excited because it is Atomic Habits meets The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck times Tim Grover's Relentless. And you put those three things together, and that's what this book is.
And honestly, that's like kind of really big, especially like in society now, where I feel like it's slightly coming back, but it has to be people like you that are giving that mentality again to understand what it's like to work for something that, even through everything you said, what I'm saying is like, it's not easy. You have to do the work. And I feel
Dude, people are soft. People are so soft. And like, and again, like, it's funny. It's funny because, like, I filmed the master class for the book, and everyone that pre-orders a copy gets the master class. And the master class is worth more than the book itself. Like, if you buy the book, it's already a great investment. If you bought the master class, it would be a great investment. The fact that you get both of them is just like, I don't make much money on the book. I don't think people realize authors make, like, I'm making $1 a book. So like my friends, there's times where my friends will screenshot and I'll be like, hey, I appreciate you because of the support, but also no, I only made $1 from that. You know what I mean? I'll give you the $1 back that I made from it. I want to actually help you. So like, that's my goal. Is I want people to go out and buy the book to support me and to show love, but I really want people to actually implement the strategies in the book. And it's funny because I say this, this is the closing line of like the masterclass, but I was like, most people will avoid the work. You know what I mean? The magic happens in the work that you're avoiding. And I really do think that that's the truth, is like, most people don't realize that the only thing standing between them and the dream life that they want is them. You know what I mean? And so it's really cool. The last chapter of the book is all about writing your story. And it basically is like, making people visualize, what will your life look like if you don't make changes? And then now, what will your life look like if you do? And I always think about, can you imagine at the end of your life, let's say you go to heaven, and right before you get to walk in the pearly gates, God says, hey, here's an iPad, and you get to watch what your life could have been if you did all the right things. If you ate well, slept well, avoided the people that stress you out, avoided unnecessary drama, put in the work that you knew would take you to new levels. Here's what your life could have been. Can you imagine if you had to watch that video? You would be like,
it'd be hard.
Oh.
Hard as hell.
Like, bro, here I am. I've spent my entire life justifying excuses, giving myself, hall passes, avoiding the work. But that's what my life could have been if I would have just done those things. And so that's what I hope to inspire people to do, is to not have those regrettable moments, when they're on their deathbed of, man, what could my life have been? And I don't want to live with that regret. And I do think that, we never know what's right and what's wrong. Trust me, sometimes the hardest thing to do is know which step to take. But, I do know that not taking a step is the wrong one to take. And so, that's what I hope to inspire, is driving action and helping people clarify. But the truth is, and I mean this, I tell people this all the time, I can give all the trainers in the world all of the drills that I use. I can give them, I literally have business courses that literally say step 1, step 2, step 3. It gives them the blueprint to be successful, and they still don't do it. And, that's how most people are. Like, I'm literally if you follow the stuff in this book, you will be the next transformation story. I can guarantee that. The problem is most people aren't going to follow it. And so that's the part where I'm hoping that, the stories and the book is very chunk sized. Zach Levine said, I gave him an advanced copy, and Zach was like, bro, I don't ever read books, but the thing I love about the book, he's like, I haven't been able to put it down because everything is just, they're little short stories. So I can read a page in 2 pages and then I get the message and then I can set it down and I can eat and then I can pick it up and read another 2 pages. And the chapters are 2 to 3 to 4 pages so that you get the messages, they hit, and then it's an actionable step. Like, now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. And so by the time you finish the book, you got this whole blueprint. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to figure out your life, but you're definitely going to figure out some stuff, some stuff about yourself that's going to allow you to get to a better place.
Yeah, I think you hit everything on the head in terms of being able to see see yourself in a different light, and obviously having the actions that kind of, and me and Jerry was having this conversation of having your idealistic goals match up with your realistic values that you have currently, and how do we match those things together? And one of the things that you said that kind of sparked my mind about something that my mentor says to me, and it's kind of what you're saying here, is that, the old adage of you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. And he always
Right.
adds that, but if you're great enough, you can make that person think about drinking. And that's kind of your whole message, is that I can't get you the drink, but if I'm do this right, I can at least plant that seed to make you think about doing this. And I think that's the best thing that you can do. And this will be my last question, man. We appreciate the time that you put away for us. So usually with interviews, they ask the guests, how did you go about attaining this level of success? You get the conventional answers of hard work, discipline, and dedication, which are very vital and very important to success. Like, those are non-negotiables, like Kobe would say, right? But it's the little things that make the world of a difference. Like, I read in, like, I'm a big avid reader with Malcolm Gladwell with The Tipping Point and Outliers. He talks about these little small things that happen that lead to a bigger story being painted, or a bigger picture being painted. So in your journey, for our viewers, what would you say has probably been the most overlooked or undervalued detail of becoming successful, and when did it sort of click that this is important for me and moving forward?
I'll give you one flashback. So, funny story how I got started as a trainer. So, I wanted to be a referee. You know why I wanted to be a referee? Because they made $18 an hour. And, that was, to me, I was like, I wanted that car that I had mentioned earlier. I needed a new car. And so, 18 bucks an hour was what I was after. When I went to apply to be a referee, they didn't even call me back. Matt Brobeck was running Veta Hampshire, and he didn't call me back. And so I showed up to the facility. And I said, is Matt Brobeck in? They said, no, he's away at lunch. I said, where's his office? They said, downstairs, but he's not down there. I said, all right, cool. I just want to leave a note for him. Well, I went down there, I knock on his door. He wasn't there. And I opened up his office. I'm in high school. I don't know business profession. I walk into his
Right.
office. I took out the sticky note and wrote, call me. I know you got my message. And then Drew Hanlen and my cell phone number. And so 20 minutes later, I get, a phone call, and he says, hey man, he said, first off, like, why do you want this referee job so bad? 18 bucks an hour. He said, well, do you have any ref certifications or, approvals? And no, but I'm better than the refs that blow my calls in the other games. And he
Yeah.
starts laughing. He's like, that's great, but like, that doesn't mean that you can be a ref. And he's like, well,
Right.
okay, well, you really want 18 bucks an hour. You don't really want to be a ref. He's like, why don't I pay you to be a coach? And I was like,
Mhm.
and he's like, 18 bucks an hour. I'm like, I'm down. I'm a coach. Like, I'm no longer a referee. I retired before I ever started. Now I'm a coach. And so then I started coaching, and I just started teaching them how to play instead of teaching them plays. And I started pouring into these kids. And one of the perks of coaching was I got access to the facility to work out. And so there's one day where I'm working my ass off like I always did. And I'm bent over, dripping in sweat on court 3. And there's 2 games going on court 1 and 2. And I had a parent come over, and his son was playing on court 2. He came over and literally, while I was hands on my knees, touched my shoulder. I remember I was startled. I kind of jumped back and kind of like looked, and he was like, I've never seen somebody work that hard. He's like, can I pay you 20 bucks to put my kid through a workout? I was like, I'm no longer a coach. I got a $2 pay raise. I'm a trainer now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm no dummy. Like, I'm making $2 more an hour. But the truth is, that was the first workout that I ever went through. And if I wasn't working extremely hard myself, I don't know where I would be right now. Maybe I still find this because, people always talk about this, your calling and this is whatever. But like, the truth is, my first opportunity came because I was working extremely hard on my own game. And I really do believe that like hard work transitions to everything you do. I remember when I used to shovel snow, when it used to snow in St. Louis, when I used to cut grass in the summers when it was, growing grass. And I remember when I used to do lemonade stands and growing up, like I knew how to make money growing up because I was a hustler. Most people avoid the hard work. For me, as a player, I was extremely hardworking. I woke up at 4:59 a.m. I gave up sweets when I was 12 years old and didn't eat sweets until I was playing 20. When I'm done playing college basketball at 22, like I did all these things that nobody else did, and I really believe in like people are like, oh, that's lucky. I'm like, it's not luck, it's action.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
was working my ass off, and that sparked somebody's interest in my work ethic, which sparked my first workout. Then I worked out. Matt Baker was the player, helped him get better, and then started working out a bunch of kids around St. Louis. And one of those kids was Brad Beal. And Brad, went
Mm-hmm.
from 8 points a game as a freshman to 25 points a game as a sophomore. And I won the state championship in 2008. He won the state championship in 2009 once I had went away to college. And it's like that's what started the story. But people always think that the Brad Beals, started the story, which again, Brad I always credit for a lot of my success. His takeoff really helped me take off. But it all started with Matt Baker, and it started by me working my ass off. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would say is like, don't complain about the hand that you were dealt. Like every hand has a potential to be a winner if you play it the right way. Like it's funny because people bitch to me about, well, bro, you don't understand how I was raised. I'm like, listen, I promise you that as a basketball lover, I would have picked a different hand. I would not have picked to be a 5'11" little white kid as a basketball lover.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that is the last time that a under 6 foot white American was drafted in the NBA was 1990. That means one person in my entire life has been drafted,
That's
a white
insane.
American under six
Wow.
foot. So, do you think I would have picked that card? No, but guess what?
Never.
I played the
No.
hand as best as I could. And I think that, what I would suggest to people out there is, especially from St. Louis, a lot of us grow up with, we're middle class or lower class. You know what I mean? There are some people that are wealthy around St. Louis, but not the folks that I'm hanging around. You know what I mean? Like, and so
Not many of us.
instead of complaining about what you weren't born into, I would say go find people that had it worse than you that now are doing exactly what you want to do. Because there is always somebody
Mm-hmm.
that came from a worse scenario than you, that was broker than you, that had a rougher upbringing than you, that went through more trauma than you, that is living the exact life that you want to live. And so if they made it, you can too. And so one of the things I always talk about
Mm-hmm.
is find evidence, build proof. And there's plenty of success stories out there that you can draw from and say, hey, they overcame their excuses. They overcame their upbringing. They overcame their stresses, their struggles, and they made it beyond it. And actually, wow, they actually used those to their advantage. They looked at themselves as
Mm-hmm.
bulletproof because they were able to survive those things and to thrive, through those things. And so that's the encouraging message that I would leave behind is like, you don't realize you're one decision away from a completely different life. And that one decision might not be the decision you think. My decision to wake up that morning and go work out on court 3 changed my life. My decision to work really hard with no rebounder, no trainer, no coach pushing me changed my life. Now I want people, that are watching this to be like, what can I do to just, stir action? And, there's a really cool quote that one of my buddies shared with me the other day. And he said, depression hates a moving target. And I love
Wow.
that quote.
That's deep.
Depression hates a moving target. They love when you're sitting still complaining, but they hate a moving
Mm-hmm.
target. Go do something to get a step closer to where you want to get to. And you never know where you might end up.
That's real. That's 100% real. And honestly, just hearing everything you say, man, and like, I know you're busy and we're going to wrap this up, but still, it's just what you've honestly just meant to like our community, Webster grows, like that legacy is going to live forever. And just to see you at the level that you're doing now, like it's like I'm not even joking. Like when people speak your name in the Webster Groves High School hallways, like you felt chills a little bit. Like what you did is just not going to say unheard of because you really showed that everybody can do it if they really just took action in that. So I guess for like where I'm at with it is almost like what is next for Drew Hanlen now? Like you have the NBA trainer legacy. So like people call you a legend in the game now of that. So what is next for you to take off to where you're always saying you want to elevate. What's that next elevation for you?
This right here.
There you
This
go.
is the first step, baby. That's a step, man. Listen, I'm being serious. Like, it has been a very cool grind for me, a cool journey for me because it's so new. You know, I've never been an author before. I never really read books growing up. You know, like I remember, throughout high school and college, I never read books. I would just pay attention in class so that I could get the grades that I needed, so I could hoop and if I didn't think that a class was gonna help me make more money in the future, I was just doing just enough to scrape by. And like I got good grades. I was a 4.0 student and in high school and a 3.7 student in college. But it wasn't because I was in the books. It was because I was just paying attention and doing the little things. And so now that I've, if I was downstairs right now, I'd show you, I have like literally a whole room full of books and notes and this and that. And I'm like, how can I pack all of that into one book so that people don't have to read the thousands of books that I have? And like I said, I mean, literally the book gives you a system. And so, I know the majority of people watching this, let's say there's a couple hundred people, let's say there's a couple thousand people watching this will be like, all right, that's a good book. And then they won't get the book. And I'm like, there's a chance for you to elevate your game. This could be the moment that you change your life, but you didn't do it. Then there's going to be other people that pre-order the book and they get the book and they're like, all right, I'm going to read this, but I got a couple more books that, I want to read before it. And they never get to it. And it's like, there's another
Mhm.
chance where you could, but like, if you follow the proven system that is in the book, it has helped NBA players, you know, reach Hall of Fame status level. It's helped, like my dad lose 90 pounds. It's helped everyday people. Like one of my friends literally came to me and said, hey, Drew, I need a copy now. Like, I know you don't have like physical copies. This is a couple months ago, but like, I need it. Like, I've been thinking some bad thoughts and I need it. And I gave it to him and he's like, Drew, he's like, I'm not going to lie. He's like, your book like helped me get out of depression. He's like, I still have days where I feel depressed, but I'm not in depression anymore. And he's like, and in this short period of time, it's been like 3 months since you read the book. He's like, uh, I've started to become more optimistic. I've seen, my level of discipline change. I've seen, my work ethic change. He's like, I'm down 10 pounds. He started naming all that. And he's like, this is 3 months. I'm like, just imagine what's going to happen if you can do this for a year. So that's what's next for me, man. Is I cannot wait to hear the community of Webster Groves, the city of St. Louis, people all over the world that come up to me who I don't know and say, "Hey, man, listen, I listened to that podcast, or I listened, I read that book, or I followed the stuff you said, and I didn't believe you. I thought you were, like most self help people, or you just promised, stuff and it didn't follow through. But like that shit worked, man. And that's what I'm really excited about. And I really do think that the city of St. Louis will rally behind it. Like I fully expect to walk into bookstores and like it not be available. Like, and it's going to be so cool just because St. Louis is always showing love. But then more importantly, I can't wait for a year from now to hear the transformations that people have made from the book. So that's what's next for me is, selfishly, I feel like, I'm on this journey that, I've been on for a long time, and individually I'm doing well, but, that doesn't mean anything to me. The legacy is going to be how many other people can you help get to do exactly what they want to do. And so that's what this book's goal is.
Nice.
Absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely. That was a perfect way to close that out. I'll make sure to be doing that from my end. From one Midwest kid, I'll be up there in Omaha and making sure that they grab the book. I'm out
Hey
here on
man,
the East
listen,
Coast now.
if I pop into Omaha and I don't see all the books off the shelf, we're blaming you, all right? Because I know
All
St.
right,
Louis.
bet. I'll
All right,
be in Omaha.
go grab
I'm
your
out. See, I'm
friends,
out.
grab your
Yeah,
teammates.
got
Like,
you,
all right, week
got
one,
you.
we need them
I
things
got you,
sold out.
Man,
got you.
that's
I
on you,
got you.
man.
I
Yeah,
know it's on me. I'm out here on the
stop
East Coast with it. I'm
bullshitting,
in
bro.
DC
Stop
now.
bullshitting. Let's
Stop
go.
bullshitting
Stop
and
bullshit.
stop bullshitting
We
and
gonna hold
go
it down in
get
the loop,
that.
man.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna hold it down and go get your book, man. If you want to change your life, all you gotta do is go get pre-order it and make sure that you follow those steps. Like you said, it's very simple, it's very much in chunks, and just do what you need to do to put yourself in a position next year as 2025 to actually actualize your potential and your goals. So we want to thank you so much, Drew, for having us. You being on. That we know that your time is very, very precious. So I'm glad that we were able to get this done. But thank you so much for tuning in with the Going with the Flow podcast. And yeah, I appreciate you so much.
No doubt.
Shout out to
Appreciate
you,
y'all, man.
brother.
It was fun. Yep. See y'all.
Got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what a problem is.